December 15th, 1900. The steamer Archtor is battling the brutal waves of the Atlantic, heading towards Scotland. As the captain scans the horizon, he expects to see the reassuring 140,000 candle power beam of the Eilean Mor Lighthouse, but there is only darkness. The most advanced lighthouse of its time, a miracle of engineering designed to withstand any storm, had gone silent. When a relief ship, the Hesperus, finally reached the island days later, the crew didn't find a wreck. They found a lighthouse that looked waiting. The beds were made, the lamps were cleaned and refilled, the kitchen table was set, but the three men responsible for the light were gone. They didn't leave a note. They didn't take a boat. It was as if they had simply evaporated into the salt air. Today we delve into a 125-year-old mystery that has baffled investigators, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike. This is the full, unabridged story of the Flannan Isles mystery. Eilean Mor is the largest of the Flannan Isles, but large is a relative term. It's a jagged green rock sticking out of the North Atlantic. For centuries, it was known as the Seven Hunters. Local shepherds would bring their sheep there to graze, but they refused to ever stay the night. They believed the island was haunted by the small people, or ancient spirits. They had a ritual. Before stepping onto the grass, they would take off their hats and walk sunwise around the island. They knew that on Eilean Mor, the veil between our world and something else was thin. It was on this ground that the Northern Lighthouse Board decided to build its newest beacon in 1899. To run such a vital light, you needed men of steel. James Duckett, 43 years old, a veteran with a wife and children. He was known as a calm, sensible man. Thomas Marshall, 28, young, energetic, but experienced in the harsh conditions of the Atlantic. Donald MacArthur, 40, a tiger of the sea. A man who had survived countless storms and was known for his physical and mental toughness. These weren't men who scared easily. They were paid to be alone. They were trained to handle the cabin fever of isolation. Their job was simple. Keep the light burning no matter what. But even the strongest steel can snap under the right pressure. Let Yes talk about how a lighthouse like this even worked back in 1900. This was not a simple flip of a switch. This was a massive clockwork machine. The light itself came from a paraffin lamp, much like a giant kerosene lantern, but its flame was magnified by an enormous array of precisely cut glass lenses. This whole assembly, weighing several tons, had to rotate constantly to create the lighthouse's unique flashing pattern that ships used for navigation. How did it rotate? Gravity. A heavy weight was cranked up to the top of the tower, and as it slowly descended, it turned a series of gears that moved the entire lamp and lens structure. The keepers had to wind this mechanism up every few hours, day and night. Their duties also included trimming the wicks, polishing the lenses to perfection, and keeping the paraffin fuel stores topped up. It was a demanding, meticulous job that required constant attention. Any lapse, any mistake, and the light could fail, putting countless lives at sea in jeopardy. This was the world these three men inhabited, a world of disciplined routine, governed by the ticking of a clock and the hiss of a burning lamp, all while surrounded by the endless roaring ocean. December 26, 1900. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, steps onto Eilean Mor. He is immediately struck by a terrible silence. No one comes down to meet the boat. No flag is raised. He climbs the 160 steps to the lighthouse. The door is locked. He opens it and calls out. No answer. Inside, Moore finds a scene that will haunt him for the rest of his life. The kitchen fireplace was cold. The table was set for a meal that was never eaten. A chair lay overturned on the floor. Everything was clean, in perfect order, except for the men. He checks the oil room. The containers are full. He checks the light itself. It is in perfect working order. The men had done their duty right up until the moment they disappeared. Then Moore finds the logbook. This is where the story shifts from a tragedy to a supernatural mystery. December 12th. Marshall writes that a severe storm has hit. He says Ducat is very quiet. and MacArthur, the tough tiger, is crying. December 13th. The storm continues. The men are praying. Wait, here is the problem. Official weather logs from the nearby island of Lewis and reports from ships in the area show that December 12th, 13th, and 14th were calm. There was no storm. The sky was clear. The last entry in the logbook was made on December 15th, and it simply read, "Storm past, sea calm, God is over all." Were the men experiencing a collective hallucination, or were they trapped in a localized storm, a phenomenon that didn't exist for the rest of the world? The investigation moved outside. At the west landing, the power of the ocean was visible. A supply gallery 110 feet above sea level had been ripped apart. Iron railings were twisted like dry twigs. A rock weighing over a ton had been moved. The superintendent of lighthouses, Robert Muirhead, concluded that a rogue wave, a wall of water over 100 feet high, must have swept the men away. This became the official explanation. The story goes that Marshall and Duckett went out during a lull in the storm to secure some equipment near the crane. When a massive wave threatened them, MacArthur, despite his fear, ran out to warn them, and all three were washed away. But if they were veteran keepers, why would all three be outside at the same time? Rules stated one must always stay with the light. It was the most sacred rule of the service. And why was MacArthur, the man who was supposedly crying in the log, found to have left his waterproof oilskin coat inside? No sailor, no matter the emergency, goes out to face a 100-foot wave in just his shirt sleeves. The details just don't add up. The locked door also presents a problem. How could they be swept away from the landing if the main door to the lighthouse was found locked from the inside? If it wasn't a wave, what was it? Some believe MacArthur went mad, killed his colleagues in a fit of island fever, and jumped into the sea. But there were no signs of a struggle, and MacArthur's own body was never found. Others point to the strange log entries. In the early 1900s, people spoke of giant seabirds carrying them away, or perhaps a sea serpent rising from the depths. Today, modern theorists have suggested everything from a time slip, where the men simply vanished into another dimension, to extraterrestrial abduction. But the most chilling theory is the simplest. They saw something coming from the water. Something so terrifying that they forgot their coats, forgot their rules, and ran straight into the abyss, perhaps to their deaths, or perhaps to escape something even worse. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse was automated in 1971. No one lives there now, but sailors still report seeing 3 figures on the cliffs when the mist is thick. James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur are still there, in the silence of Island Moor. Their bodies were never found. Their story has no ending. It simply stops. It leaves us with a cold, empty kitchen and a light that went out. What do you think happened during those 3 days of silence? Was it the sea, or was it something the sea was hiding? Tell us your theory in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's keep digging.